Just say this. This is the critical thing you've got to understand, we've all got to understand about greenhouse gas emissions, is that a tonne of CO2 has the same effect on the climate wherever it is emitted.
And the critical thing to understand is that we have a Prime Minister who stands before the world and says he wants to talk about economic growth, but he's not prepared to talk about climate change. The two are not mutually exclusive. This man has children. He knows about Newton's third law of mechanics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The combined energy of the sun is locked in a battery in the earth. We suck billions of years of energy out in one fell swoop and set fire to it. That is going to have consequences. And in front of the world, our Prime Minister sought over and over again to dodge those issues. Now, I know you feel very strongly about these issues, but you're forced to hide some of that because of the party that you represent.
I've been very bad at hiding things.
I know, and I think you've done a good job, and I wish you'd have a tilt at the leadership. But the fact is, this is a crisis. Tony Abbott has
Ben,
children. Why?
Well, Ben, you keep on saying
because
he has children. Many of us have children, but the fact is that climate change was always going to be part of the communique for the G20. It is, of course, a global issue. It is absolutely... I mean, look, you can't say climate change is not relevant to economic growth.
Except
of course
that Tony Abbott effectively
Of course it's relevant. I mean, ask any insurance company. Ask any of the big reinsurance companies.
Sorry, I'm going to put both...
Do you not feel it's a bit depressing, this idea that we wait on other people's opinions to form our own? As a first world nation with still an extraordinary, lucky lifestyle, to point at a developing nation which is only now beginning to gather about itself the luxuries that even quite less well-off people still take for granted and say, you're not doing anything, why should we? I think in terms of a moral and a historical stance, it's going to be very, very difficult to defend even in 10 years, let alone in 20 years. You then say also, Australians, they got bored of the climate debate about 2007, they didn't really want to talk about it, they're worried about their mortgage. Of course they are, everyone is. Nobody expects the individual in the street to be able to volunteer to put 20 years ahead economy in the same context of their economy tomorrow when they're trying to feed their children. That's why we have leaders. That's why we ask for leadership from our politicians. Now, it seems to me that Mr Abbott has consistently followed. He's taken very easy choices, like demonising the carbon tax, which was a phrase that was used over and over again. Never once did I hear him actually discussing the reason we're talking about carbon emissions. Another, we have this extraordinarily good idea, an obvious idea, the world is one globe. Developing nations, particularly with low-lying land, are about to be engulfed by a series of tsunamis. There's a suggestion that the First World should form a fund to perhaps help, since we all live on the same planet, and these actions are happening from our carbon burning. Immediately, Tony's got his line. It's a Bob Brown Bank. I'll say that over and over again. I won't engage the issue, I won't discuss it, I won't look at the morals, I won't look at the science. I'll say Bob Brown, Bob Brown, Bob Brown, and hopefully enough of a percentage of the electorate in our first-past-the-post system will listen and go, oh yeah, greenie tree hugging, I know what you're talking about. Fair enough, that's a lot of old rubbish.
OK, all right.
So we're looking for leadership, that's all. And I think Malcolm could give us it. Lead the Liberal Party.
Can you respond briefly to that? And can we just bear in mind that the Canadian Prime Minister has signed up to that Green Bank?
Yeah.
Well, the Bob Brown Bank, mate.
Don't
call it green.
There are so many funds. I mean, we have a large $2.5 billion commitment to the Direct Action program, which we were discussing earlier. We obviously still have the sort of climate fund that that was introduced by the previous government that we did say we were going to seek to abolish, but is going to remain. So there's a $10 billion
just as long as he
there.
can use it, isn't it?
So there is a lot, but there is a lot of capital committed. I just want to say this though, in defence of Tony Abbott, just be careful that you don't make the mistake of creating a caricature and assuming, which may amuse you. And
no,
assuming
not remotely.
that
it
is the real
certainly doesn't
person.
amuse me, Malcolm. He's created his own caricature. I'm trying to understand how a Rhodes Scholar can deny climate science.
The one thing you've done tonight is prove that Mark Twain was wrong when he said only fiction has to be credible. Because as a novelist, everything you've said about Tony Abbott and the Liberal Party is a caricature. It's a fantasy,
Tony
and
Abbott,
it
not
is
the Liberal Party.
incredible.
I like your bit of the Liberal Party.
Oh, right.
Tony
Look,
Abbott.
come on, Malcolm. Tony Abbott stands up and says to the world, I want to tell you how tough it was to cut education cuts and get people to pay for their doctor's fees. This in
I'm
front
sorry,
of the
I'm going to interrupt you there because that does
Tony
say...
Abbott sort of hate fest, is it? I mean, it's just
yeah.
ridiculous. Anyway, well, okay, yeah, okay. Well, I reckon you look. You should have your own show on YouTube. You know, get a YouTube channel.
No, I shouldn't.
And just go on for hours and hours attacking Tony Abbott.
It's
no, let's stop doing that now.
You're okay.
Why do we all have to put up with it? That's what I'm saying.
All right.
So